So, welcome everybody to it's the first of the official club forum that we've ran specifically to give the clubs across the county a voice in terms of directly into the county FA, and also to hopefully put some minds at rest for the current situations that keeps evolving minute by minute, but also to give you some valuable information in terms of what's happening inside the county FA that I think will help you in some of your club planning and also some of the stuff to keep the season going forward. Tonight is on the call in terms of county FA staff. As obviously myself, Mark Burkett, heading up clubs, leagues and workforce. We've got Leanne Woodhead Groves is also on the call with us, so she will be doing a bit of an update in just a second, and Craig Lee, who you know, or most of you should know by now, from the governance and services team. I've also got Zara Dickinson, who is our inclusion and disability officer on the call. All right, so there's a fair few members of staff that you'll be able to open up questions through for on the open questions section. The format of tonight really is that we're going to give you a club update, which kind of relates to what the information that you need from us. Just kind of put you in the picture in terms of where we are staffing wise, because we've gone through a restructure, and I appreciate that either yourselves or members of your club have been trying to get hold of the various officers, and they may or may not be in post or have got different roles. So we'll give you a brief update with them. Obviously, we can't go a meeting without mentioning the current situation with COVID-19. So we'll give you a brief update in terms of where we are and where the county is. And obviously, you'll be well aware of a lot of the news stories that are bouncing around at the moment about where Nottingham is. I'll run through a football development update for you very briefly, and then we'll have a brief governance update in terms of where Craig and the guys crossing football services are up to at the moment, and then we're going to open the floor to questions. All right, so what it probably is the best format for us to deal with the questions, if you allow us to run through the updates straight away, and if you can either drop your questions in the chat box if there is things that come up during the updates, and we will come back to them in the open questions. And then once we open it up, you can raise your hand, and then we'll bounce back and forth from you in terms of answering your question. So hopefully it will be an interesting hour or so of your time, and useful to make some contact with key county FA staff. So that's me done. Leanne, if you're all right to take over for us, and I'll scroll through the presentation deck.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Mark. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is well. Nice to see so many of you joined us again tonight, and hopefully you're going to find these meetings quite useful, just to allow us to sort of give you the key information and you to ask the questions that I'm sure many of you have got. Just to give you a bit of an update in terms of where we're at from a Notts FA perspective. Obviously, we touched upon it previously, and you'll all be aware that we furloughed a number of our staff during the last few months. We have now got to a point that all of the staff are back. We have, unfortunately, however, had to go through a restructure, and that restructure has meant that we have lost 3 positions. So we have lost our football development officer for workforce, which was Fiona, our football development admin, who was dealing with referee admin majority, which was Chloe, and our marketing officer, which was Kirsty. Those areas are still getting picked up, and they're getting picked up within that new restructure, and some roles have maybe gained a little bit more work. This is the layout really for what the structure looks like. This can be found on our website as well, so you'll be able to see if you're contacting the right person. Majority of roles have stayed similar-ish, but if you've got any problems, direct yourselves to the website. On there it will tell you what the lead areas are for each individual member of staff. We're also in a position that we did reopen the office for a couple of weeks. Those couple of weeks obviously had its challenges with the current climate and with the changes and the response from government, with the request to now return back to working from home where possible. So we have done that. We've made sure that our staff are safe, which is the main thing. So what I will say to everybody is every single member of staff has got a mobile phone, a work mobile number. All of them are displayed on our website. if you are struggling to get hold of a member of staff, you will be able to see all of the mobile numbers on there and the lead areas in which they deal with. So please start using those mobile numbers, get them saved, because that's going to be the main port of call for the time being, especially with the current climate. Okay, so just a brief touch upon the COVID-19 situation. I don't have a massive amount to tell you. Obviously, we're all very much aware of the current situation of Nottingham and Nottinghamshire and the government concern around that. What we are aware of, and we have been speaking to our regional senior member of staff at the FA, who has been dealing with the football situation in the northeast. So we are aware that obviously they've been in these tighter restrictions for a lot longer, and they have still been able to see football being played. However, there has been tighter restrictions above and beyond what the FA have currently put in place. So once we know what that means for us, we'll obviously be able to share that information with you. We'll also need to work with those local authorities, and say as soon as we have any information, it will be shared. But again, I would expect that whilst we're not in a position where we're expecting football to be stopped, but we are in a position that we will expect to see some tighter restrictions in terms of spectators and things like that. Obviously, we have already sort of made a commitment from a county FA perspective that we want to work with our leagues, and we want to help guide clubs as best we can and help that communication. So Mark's doing some work with the leagues at the League Forum, which I think is next week. So obviously that may already have been dealt with because of the guidelines that the government's put in, but we are keen to make sure it's as clear as possible for all clubs, because I think it has got a little bit confusing. However, as it currently stands, we are in no position that we can hand out any sanctions to any football clubs that are going against the current rules or individuals that are. It's not for us to police as the county FA. It is purely guidance that we send out. It's guidance from the FA, but it's essentially come from the government, so it isn't a position we can police. So if you feel that a club's not adhering to things in the correct manner, it's obviously very difficult for us to really impose any sanctions on that. It is a policing matter. And that's where we're at with COVID at the moment. I say we will know more, I believe, Monday. And we will, as soon as we have any further information, it will go on our social media channels, it will go on our website, and we'll communicate it directly to clubs and league secretaries.
Thanks, Leanne. And we will field some call questions if you need to at the end that we mentioned. So in terms of a football development update, those clubs on the call that are already charter standard, all the clubs across the county have been notified that the charter standard scheme has been reopened as of basically a week ago. So we are now, the scheme's back up and running for business, with new applications for both clubs and leagues being accepted from now onwards. Several clubs have already been making contact in terms of jumping on the scheme about the criteria. Criteria has changed slightly due to obviously no coach education running, which I'll mention in just a little bit. But if you need any more information, like I said, the club secretaries will have had an email from me over the last week or so in terms of getting in touch so we can get that ball rolling as soon as possible with them. Those clubs that are already charged standard on the call, if you were on the previous forum, you would have known that for this season, the annual health check is no longer applicable. So you'll run through the season as normal, as the charter standard scheme is going to change slightly at the end of this season and the beginning of next season. So it didn't seem fair to go through the annual health check process. Plus, obviously, with COVID, it's not easy for the coach education requirements. Those returning clubs that are have affiliated with us again and are existing charter standard clubs or were existing charter standard clubs, you should be contacted over the next few weeks or so from the FA regarding a retention equipment pack. So some balls and some vouchers that will come your way from the FA. Community and development clubs that are on the call will have them delivered to your doorsteps based on the orders that are sent in. and all youth and adult clubs will have their kit packs sent to the County FA, and then it's for us to arrange delivery of you guys. So I'll be in contact with you about that process going forward. So we expect that to be over the next few weeks as we start taking delivery. In terms of charter standard, some of you be aware that we have a partnership with a company called Give to Local, which is an app-based project which signs up. You have to be Charter Standard Club to sign up for it, and it allows you, basically, it's like a loyalty scheme. You can bring in members on there. They can donate. You can take your subs through there. You can get local businesses linked in, and you take a percentage back to generate some income back to your club. So it's free for you guys to use, completely free, and it generates you a nice little income depending on how busy you are on the app and on the fundraising side of things. So if you want a little bit more information there, if you click on givetolocal.com, have a look through, and if you need any further advice, you can obviously drop me a line and get in touch, and we'll link you in with the team across over at Give to Local, but well worth you jumping on. In terms of coach education, so coach education no longer sits directly with the County FA. It sits in purely with the FA. And with a new scheme basically looking to run from March onwards to 2021. So some of the content for courses will look very different. The level ones will be looking more to be a bit more blended learning, and that will be rolled out across pretty much all of the qualifications. So in the meantime, in terms of the county FA, we will be running no new courses at all. We are currently still ongoing review in terms of the in-flight learners. So those learners that are already part of a course that's been running over the last season or so. And in terms of trying to try to get them closed off and get their qualifications signed off, but at the moment that's who we are directly supporting. And if any of those members fall within your club, they should have had contact with regards to what the process is going forward. Just in terms of coach education, everything for the FA will move across to their new boot room section on the FA.com, which is been populated over the last couple of months with all of their courses, both online and what they were running face to face. But it's well worth you going over there and having a look at the courses and what that area is going to look like, because there's going to be ongoing CPD opportunities offered through that section of the website as well, and obviously to be able to book onto the courses as and when. We would like to anybody that has new coaches within their clubs, if you can just direct them, because I presume they'll be looking to get their level 1 qualifications, etc., and safeguarding and first aid. If they go across over to the boot room, there is a free online course which will take about 3 hours worth of people's time. It can be started and you can come back to it as and when you like, called the Playmaker. It's a fairly straightforward course. It covers an introduction into facilitating coaching sessions and basic requirements. It takes a look at the safeguarding elements of that you need to be aware of within coaching, and also it covers a lot of the first aid for concussion and basic first aid, whilst we obviously can't run the face-to-face course. So it's really good. It's free of charge. It's minimum requirement for all Charter Standard Club coaches to have as minimum, if they don't already hold the level 1 qualification. But anybody new coming into the game, I think you should be signposting them there. If there is members of your club that have first aid running out very soon or have run out recently, again, please signpost them to the boot room to do the top-up courses for the concussion section on the first aid. And also, if there is any recertifications of safeguarding. It's also located in the boot room, all right, and those courses at the moment are being run free of charge. If there is anybody with that needs safeguarding as a requirement, either a new coach or a volunteer that you want to get on LinkedIn with your club, then there is the FA Safeguarding for All, which again is on the boot room, and all of those courses at present are available to candidates for free of charge. All right, so please go on when you get the opportunity, have a look at that and circulate those links around your club. I am sure that most of you this season, for the first few weeks that we're already into the season, will have witnessed that we are short of referees, more than we have been in previous seasons. So the county is down considerably in terms of the referee workforce this season, and we will be for the entire season due to no courses being available to be ran until at least January, and I underline at least because that is a very optimistic target at the moment, as we are still waiting for the tutor team to be put together and the course officially rolled out, and the logistical procedures that we'll need to have in place for obviously COVID-19. So there'll be no referee development course, or no referee education courses until at least the new year. And Mel, the RDO, is working on all the other referee development initiatives at the moment. All right, so if you can please, the referees that you get, if you can be very nice to them, because we need to keep them in for the season for as long as we can. All right. The final area, football development update, that's relevant to most of your clubs. Within the youth sections, the Pokemon Youth Futsal Cup is now available to enter. All right, it's an FA event. So we run the county-based competitions, which is our county youth cup, which then feeds into a regional competition, then feeds into a national competition, which is likely to be played at St George's Park. The current programme sits with 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s boys and girls competitions, as it did last year. With this year extending to specific evenings for competition. So the girls will take part on the Thursday evenings, the lads will take part on the Friday evenings, and that will be commencing from, I think it's the 18th and 19th of November and running through to February. Based on the number of entrants, we will sort out what format that will be, whether it will be a league or a cup competition, to fit those weeks and to fit the numbers. There is free kit and equipment for all of the entrants. So if you do have your youth teams that wanting to play indoors in the winter when it's probably going to be rainy and bleak, then please get involved, get the expression of interest completed, and send that back to us as soon as you can. There'll be a full update to clubs tomorrow with regards to how to enter on the youth sections. All right. So Craig, I think the next one is over to you, mate.
Cheers, thanks, Mark. I don't know if everybody is still okay with the screen. I've noticed a couple of people noting that the screen keeps disappearing, or the slides keep disappearing. So you'll have to bear with us while we're talking through it, and hopefully can follow if your screen does go. What I want to do for you is give you a little bit of an update from a governance point of view, with some of the key things that have just come up recently now that football is back underway. And there's some clubs that are sort of falling foul a little bit of a couple of areas. It always happens every season at the start of the season. Some clubs, especially new clubs, will fall foul of some of the regulations, and will learn with hindsight. It's obviously a little bit unfortunate, not a nice thing to have to go through, but hopefully with a little bit of an update here with some of the key things, we can get all clubs educated as soon as possible, really. So I want to give a quick update on the FA whole game system and what's been happening recently. Next would be a bit of around checking for suspensions and clearing suspensions in whole game system. Then I'll go on to red card appeals, which is quite a hot topic at the moment with red cards and with clubs at the moment. Next would just be a little bit about reporting misconduct. And finally, just to reiterate around the player plus email for the 2021-22 season, which will become mandatory, and where we stand with that and the position we're in at present. Okay. So on whole game system, really, it's just for people's awareness. You will know the pain that everybody's had to go through in the last sort of week of August leading into the start of September. Now, what's happened, the uncertainty of COVID and all the leagues that then, once football was allowed to restart, have started roughly around the same time. In the pyramid system, adult men's Saturday afternoon traditionally would start July, August. They've started in September, and it's caused a huge volume of traffic in the system in one go. Now, what normally happens is that people will log into whole game system. You don't have to queue, but the concurrent usage of people in there will slow it down significantly. And if they didn't put a queuing system in, what would have happened is that whole game would have just stopped completely. It just would not have worked. So they've put the queuing system in, and I think there's some people on this call I know have sat in queues of over 2,000, 3,000 people when it shows up and have had to wait over an hour to get in. But when they were in, the concurrent usage was around 350 capacity, and they had to make it that so that once you were in, you could do what you needed to do, and it seemed to work okay with performance. You should now find the queuing system is no longer there. So the queuing system has gone because the usage of concurrent users is showing that people now, the volume and the capacity has subsided, and you should be able to get in to do what you need to do with whole game. So I appreciate it's been really difficult. The staff have had to go through the same thing. It's been really tough, really challenging. Hopefully we've been able at a county level to deal with queries when you've come to us, and hopefully we've been able to deal with them satisfactorily where we can. But it's been frustrating for all. So thank you really for just sticking with it. I know it's been a really painful time, adding to the pressure and the stress of everything else that's been going on outside of football as well. So thanks for sticking with it. On the next slide, Mark, please. Thank you. On suspensions, there's a few clubs that are falling foul of this. And again, it's really unfortunate because we do have to raise charges and go through the process officially of raising a charge and then looking at mitigation around clubs of how it's happened. When clubs log in to the dashboard, this is me logging in on the screen, as you'll see, into our test club. Highlighted, there is the word suspensions, but the default setting doesn't show your suspensions. And many people miss this. They'll just go into their dashboard and won't necessarily see that they may have players that are suspended. So what you have to do is the drop down arrow on the right hand side that's highlighted, you have to click into it to open up the suspension page. So if you can move on to the next slide, please, Mark. What then will happen is it will open up your current and pending suspensions, which is where you will then get the list of any players that have games to serve. And it will give you the detail, the suspension, the type of suspension, the football level, start and end dates, how many games, and so on. What you've got to be really careful of here, and this is what's catching people out, is this screen only shows the players suspended when they have got games. Okay. It doesn't show suspensions of people when they are sine die owing a debt to football. And by a debt to football, it doesn't necessarily be ourselves as the sanctioning body. It might be through the Football Debt Recovery Scheme where a club or a league have come to us to claim money back from a player. Those players do not show in this list. It doesn't pick them up. Where it does pick them up, if you can move on to the next screen, please, Mark, is in the player registration tab. When you're signing your players, you may notice that the player has a red card next to them, a suspension. Those red cards can be game suspensions, they can be debt, and that's where it's picking them up. So clubs have got to be a little bit and use due diligence to try and pick this up, to identify where there might be players. We are getting more and more coming through. We have somewhere in the region of about 400 players in this county that are sine die just due to debt alone, not games. And many of them will have disappeared in football. Many of them probably may not come back, but that is where they will show. Some clubs have played these players unwittingly and unknowingly, and that's about their mitigation then, and that's where we can try and help. But we do have to go through the charge process because It is a matter of fact that somebody under suspension may have played it in a game. So hopefully this is where, as a county FA, we can actually support you in these processes whilst we still have to go through the official charging process. If you can move on, please, Mark. Thank you. In terms of clearing suspensions, this is where a number of clubs, again, also get a little bit confused in that whole game system information integrates into FA full-time. However, FA full-time information doesn't integrate back the other way into the whole game system. So the information is only integrating and going one way only. It would be brilliant, of course it would, if actually information from FA full-time and the games in full-time and the fixture programme would integrate back into whole game and save you a job in having to clear suspensions. It could just filter in automatically and go across players that are suspended. However, what you have to do when you go into your club portal, down the left-hand side, as you'll see on the screen, you see a tab for matches. You have to create the match and you have to put in a 4-step process, the date you've played, whether you were home or away, who the opposition were and what the competition was. It actually is really simple. It shouldn't take really any more than 20-30 seconds when the system is working and is working well and is quick to get the game in. And it allows you then also the flexibility to control, as you'll see on the screen, because if you create the fixture before it's actually been played, you never know, the game might get cancelled. Certainly at the moment it might be postponed due to anything related to COVID. The weather might have a problem. The game might get abandoned actually during playing it. And you'll need to then control with those buttons there to manage that game, to reset somebody's suspension. Because what you don't want is that, as you saw on the previous screen, I might be suspended. I'm due to play in that game you see on the screen. The game gets abandoned, but you don't select it as abandoned. It actually wipes that game off my suspension. It takes one game off me when actually it shouldn't be doing. So later down the line, you might find out again that then a player might play whilst under suspension. Okay, if you can move on then, please, Mark. Red card appeals, I just want to touch on here. We will send this presentation out, and that link is to a really useful document for all clubs about the discipline process throughout. It is and does say 1920 season. The FA have yet to update for the 2021 season, but the only thing that will change is that cautions have gone from £10 to £12. So the information in here is still relevant. You cannot appeal an S7, which is for 2 cautions, or you cannot appeal an S6, which is for abusive, insulting or offensive. Next part, Mark, please. The appeal fee is £30 for all football outside of the National League system, and that includes youth football and girls football. It's a £50 appeal fee for those teams then that are in the National League system at steps 5 to 7, which is adult Saturday men's football. The really key important thing here to mention is please, please, please do not wait for a referee's report to be submitted in whole game. You will know if a player has been sent off. Do not wait for that submission and that notification in whole game, because as you'll see in a minute, the appeal process is really tight and it cannot be changed. And whilst I have the utmost sympathy for clubs, if they get caught out with this, we cannot accept an appeal out of time frame, and these are the national time frames. And it is really disappointing when that happens, and I get it and I appreciate it, but we can't do anything in that. Stick to what those timeframes are for the transparency and integrity really of the system. It's okay, Mark. Yeah, just touched on that. So these are the red card appeal timeframes, and this is on the link that you'll see on the PDF from the slide before. If you've played on a Saturday or a Sunday, by 5 p.m. on the Tuesday, you have to get an intent to appeal in. That can be a phone call, it could be a text message, it can be directly in whole game system if you have had the red card in by that time. But you must get it in within those 2 working days. If there's a bank holiday in there, it resets and you'll get the extra day, but they've got to be in by that time frame. Now, as I touched on previously about referees, and do not wait for a referee report. Referees no longer have to submit a report and content about why they've sent a player off. They just have to submit a code. So the referee's report don't really say anything anyway, because in an appeal, you have to put your evidence in based on trying to prove that the referee is obviously wrong in their decision they've given. If you can just flick on to the next screen, please, Mark. So, sorry, back one. Yeah, just back to the end sentence at the bottom. This is the key question, which hopefully as a county FA we can help you with. You can appeal without video evidence. It's really hard, almost impossible, I would say, to get a successful appeal without video evidence, because you've got to prove the referee made an obvious error. I can go and watch my lad play at the weekend. I can be closer than the referee is on the sideline to a decision, think that the decision was wrong, that my lad gets sent off, or that it was a little bit harsh. It's my opinion. There might be 20 people around me that say the same thing. It's 21 people's opinion, but it will not prove and give evidence to a commission that the referee was obviously wrong in the decision that they took and that they made, because it's the referee's decision and how they interpret it to be. If you have video evidence, you may well then help with putting in an appeal. But even with video evidence, we've had unsuccessful appeals because a video still does not show that the referee's interpretation was obviously wrong. It was an obvious error for submitting a player as a red card for violent conduct, for example. So the appeals for red cards are really, really challenging, and the threshold is so high to win a red card appeal. So really, my key thing for you is stick to the timeframes, submit and say that you might have had a player sent off. You don't have to go with it still. You don't have to submit the appeal. It's an intent to begin with, and we can talk it through with you and try and help you to look at what evidence you think you might have and what our best advice to you is. You don't have to take it, but it would just be our best advice. Okay. Reporting misconduct. We want to reiterate here, anything that you might think is misconduct, it has to be reported to the county FA, not through your league. The leagues do not have the ability to deal with misconduct. It's not within their gift under rules and regulations. It has to come through the county to be dealt with through the FA disciplinary process. There is a flowchart on this screen, which I won't go through because, as I've said, we will send these out to you. But the best thing is, if you think that something might or might not be, you might not be sure, but you think it could be misconduct, send something to Ezekiel at the county FA and he will help you. He will advise and he will determine whether he thinks it might be or it might not be. And that is as simple as pick the phone up and have a conversation with him, submit something just on an email. We can go through formalising on official statements further down the line if we think that there might be something there that is a misconduct charge to charge. Okay, but it has to come to the county FA, because there's been examples where it's gone to a league and the league have made a decision and tried to determine whether they think it might be misconduct or it might be poor practice, and then we've missed the ability to maybe raise charges because the leagues do not have the ability to raise charges for misconduct. Okay, thanks Mark. Next one. Yeah. And this is just to reiterate, finally, we're in a really good place in Nottinghamshire because all leagues in Nottinghamshire are on whole game system. You're all registering players in whole game. The adult leagues are all capturing emails for players already, which is really great because it's not mandatory yet, but it's really good information that they're capturing. Obviously, the youth situation is where we have some work to do. The information you're going to have on this screen, 2 links, really important for the youths. One is for the clubs and the information for clubs, and the other one is for your parents. In whole game system now, there is a tool that is a capture email tool. You don't have to get your parents now to start trying to create fan numbers and so on with your help. All you need to do in the capture tool is you'll have a list of all your players, you'll have a blank where the emails are missing, and you can type in an email address of mum, dad, guardian, get an email from that system sent to them. They will get the video, they will get the link, they will get all the information for them to do what they need to do to then get attached and assigned to their son or daughter as a player, and that email will get created and that's then captured. So they are then done. That will follow them through into the next season so that you will just then reconsent the player and their emails will be in there. So there will be a big piece of work around getting youth clubs to do this. All I would say is, bearing in mind what whole game went through in August, September, start the process now. If you get a little bit of time, start the process now so we might not get caught out again with system overload and queues and not being able to get into whole game system. So really important that we get these emails captured for the players. But as I've said, in Nottinghamshire, we're in a really, really good place because we have 100% coverage of adult leagues with emails pretty much now, because all leagues are on the system, and we're well ahead of national target of where we should be. So again, really just, well, it's thank you to the leagues, but really thank you to the clubs in putting all that information in good time. That's me done, Mark.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Craig. So, and obviously Leanne, because for an update a little bit earlier. What we'll do, we'll open the virtual floor out to you guys. So if you want to raise a hand for us, and then we can come across to you and answer any questions that you may have.
Oh.
Yes, Lee.
It's David from Calverton Mine as well.
Hi, David. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Fine, thank you. Could I ask what would you term as a misconduct, a typical misconduct point to bring to the FA?
Yeah, so there would be a very clear difference of things that, you know, you might think are poor practice. You might have very loud adults on the sideline, for example. But you might see an incident of, we've had one this weekend where there's been a couple of parents on the sideline fighting with each other that spilled over the respect barrier onto the pitch. I mean, that's straightforward. That's clear. That's about misconduct of behaviour of club supporters and spectators. What hopefully will happen is, by identifying any misconduct, and you might report misconduct, we would equally already hope that at that time we might have a referee's reporting if you've got certainly a qualified neutral referee, and your reports actually might do something in that it supports something the referee's already submitted. Again, just to reiterate, there's so many different examples you might have of what might be misconduct, what might not be. But if you're just a bit unsure, send it to Ezekiel. Let Ezekiel take a look at it. Let him make the decision and give you the feedback as to whether he thinks it's worth investigating further to go and seek more statements to support what might have been seen or heard. Again, language, you see it week in, week out with parents on the sideline. It spills over maybe from being sort of positive and passionate to perhaps being a little bit borderline as being quite aggressive and offensive. Those sorts of things, if you hear a lot of things being said and you think that the language is not acceptable, certainly in youth football, make a note of it, send it over to Ezekiel and let Ezekiel take a look. I mean, is there something specifically, Dave, that has happened that you've seen or heard?
No, not particularly. I was just wondering what would justify being a misconduct issue to bring to the FA. You know, there's lots of things which can be dealt with locally by the football committees or the managers there and parents at the venues, but just to define what you might need to bring to the FA as opposed to discuss with the league. That's all.
Yeah, I think what we can do, if I speak to Ezekiel, maybe what we can do is do some sort of like FAQ and some examples, and look at it as to whether then should it come to us, should it not? Is it more about poor practice? Because the leagues can deal with poor practice around respect. Is it poor practice? Is it something that league and or club can deal with internally? We can have a look at that, because Ezekiel is putting together a forum with the discipline members of staff and officers from leagues. So he's putting together a support network about looking at things like this so that the chain is there. If you report something through to your league, fine, because what we're going to be proposing equally to the leagues is, if you have got something and Dave sends something through to Yell and Yell aren't sure, send it through to Ezekiel. We're just conscious that historically what's happened is some things that might be misconduct have slipped through the net because they've gone to the league and the league have made the decision when actually it really should be the sanctioning body that take that decision.
Yeah, okay. It's really just some clarity around it.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped. So if you put something on the website or direct about to club secretaries, I think that would help.
Yeah, will do. Thank you, David.
Cheers, David. Thanks very much. If there's any other questions, if you want to raise your hand.
Sorry, I don't know how to do it on my phone. It's Fred from Mansfield.
Hi, Fred. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's a very simple one, please. I didn't have my pen ready for the competition. What age groups is it again, please, Mark?
10s, 12s, 14s and 16s.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
And we'll send this information out, a proper information sheet out tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Thanks. So if anybody else wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself or give us a raised hand and we can come across to you.
Hi, it's Dave from Loughton.
Hi, Dave. You all right?
Yeah, thanks. Can you just clarify the transfer process through the whole game system? Is there still a requirement for an email confirmation from the previous club, or does it just solely go through whole game system?
Yeah, okay, so maybe I should have put this one up as well. It might be one for the next forum. But so the FA have taken out the process of notice of approach out of whole game system because it was catching a lot of people out who were simply selecting the button to waive the notice of approach without really understanding it. And by doing that, they actually were putting themselves in breach of an FA rule and regulation straight away. So the process has gone back a little bit old-fashioned. If you want to approach a player who plays on the same day somewhere else and he's registered somewhere else, then you must put the notice of approach in. Even if that player plays on the same day in a different league, because they can sign for you and stay with that other team in a different league, they can dual sign, you still have to give a notice of approach for 7 days. So what will happen is those notice of approaches have to be Saturday to Saturday, midweek to midweek, or Sunday to Sunday. So if you're signing a player for a Saturday team and you know he's registered for a Sunday, you can actually select that waive notice of approach button that you'll see in the system because it's not needed. But as I've said, the whole process of notice of approach doesn't come through in whole game anymore. You do have to do it by email, by phone call, text, however the old-fashioned way will be. In terms of the transfer process itself, that is in whole game. So if you've got a team in under 10s yell on a Saturday, the player's already registered in under 10s yell on a Saturday for a different team. Once you've gone through the notice of approach process, whether it's waived or it's not, so let's say it's on the 8th day, the transfer should go through. So the transfer goes through automatically. The club who has the player will see that there's been a transfer requested in whole game. And the leagues vary in terms of how they will do the transfer process. Some leagues will just put it through straight away because they won't see that they have any other remit other than just processing the transfers. Some leagues will ask to see the notice of approach process to ensure it's been done properly before they will approve the transfer. That's above and beyond service if they do that. They don't have to. It does clearly help because a league can determine and see if you've gone through the notice of approach process and done it properly. And they can equally then go back to you and say you haven't, so it needs to be done first and start again. So make sure your notice of approach, if you know you've got to do it, you do it in the old-fashioned way and not actually through whole game. Then the transfer process does go through whole game system. When it goes through the league will just approve it. The player will be taken out of their existing club that they're with at that time and then be transferred into your portal.
Okay. Are there any plans to amend WGS to make it a more one-stop process, if you like?
Yes. In short.
Okay. I'll wait for that then.
It might not look different because I think the FA are conscious around sort of the branding and making it look like it's a different system again, and for people to think that they might have only just got the head around whole game system and now it's changing again. But there will be something called Platform for Football, which is like the backing system to it. And this is all very technical, but Platform for Football is what's known as modular based. So it's a piece of software that is for all. So as you've said, you'll register players as you do now in whole game, but you'll book on coaching courses, or if actually you do book on coaching courses moving forward when things settle down with COVID. You'll book things like coaching courses, qualifications will show in there. And it is, as you've said, it's almost going to be like a one-stop shop. But the importance of why I say it's modular is because if one part of it breaks down, it doesn't affect the entire system. At the moment, whole game system is not modular based. And if one part of whole game system fails and breaks down, the entire thing goes down, which is really, really frustrating. So, yes, you might see little subtle changes. If anybody has used the email capture tool I mentioned, when you click on the email capture, you'll see it changes slightly in its look from what whole game is to something a little bit fresher and a bit more different. That's Platform for Football, because it's already, the email capture tool is already based on Platform for Football. So as time goes by, there will be amendments in the system and things will start shifting.
Okay, thanks for that.
Cheers, Dave. Anybody else with some questions?
It's Fred again. Can I just say a massive thank you to Julie for the help that she gave me during the hard times with whole game. Late nights, early mornings, absolutely fantastic, first class. Credit to the FA.
Thanks, Fred. Not me.
I'm going to say sorry, Craig. She no, but you know, last year you were fantastic, but she's gone above and beyond. You did then, but you just went above me. Apologies.
No,
you seem to have ditched me this year.
She's been fantastic. She's been well. I hope it's echoed by others that might have had Julie's support. Yeah, I don't think she's actually slept for about 3 months. So, yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Brilliant. I'm not sure if there's any other questions. I'll just give you 30 seconds or so to unmute yourself or drop them in the chat or raise your hand, and then we'll draw it to a close if not. Okay, Leanne, over to you, I think.
Okay, yeah, just want to say obviously thank you to everyone for joining tonight. I hope you're finding it worthwhile. Obviously, we're putting this on because we really want to make sure that you are all getting information. You're on the front line at the moment, and it's a really difficult time. So please let us know if there's anything specifically that you need mentioning, you'd like to touch upon in these sort of meetings. We will endeavour to make sure that you get all the information as soon as we have it. There is a big tendency that we sort of get that late on a Friday night, 8 o'clock updates on a Monday, or those sort of things. But we are working around the clock to make sure that you get that. But please feel free to contact anyone. The details are all on the website. Anything that you need, please let us know. Any concerns you've got, let us know. And hopefully we'll just obviously be able to maintain football being played in that safe environment.
Brilliant. Cheers, Leanne. Okay, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Great call. Thanks, guys.